Hey, Leilani with the Magical Solution here. I wanted to come on here and do a quick little informative video on the difference between a Boveda and an ancestor altar from my personal experience, from my personal tradition of Espiritismo, okay? In my tradition, the Boveda is not the same thing as your ancestral altar. The Boveda is a sacred space dedicated to your elevated spiritual court, your elevated spiritual guides, for the purpose of your personal spiritual development and growth and elevation and all that good stuff. Now, that doesn't mean that you cannot utilize the Boveda and the spirits that are, in that sacred space in order to help you with other things such as healing, blessings, protection, elevating other spirits from their particular spaces, etc., etc. But the primary purpose is for your personal spiritual growth through the divine messages and divine elevated light that you get from your elevated spirit guides, okay? Now, your ancestor altar, at least according to my tradition, is a whole different thing. Your ancestor altar houses your dead, okay? It houses your ancestors. It does not necessarily house your elevated ancestors. It depends on the tradition that you come from. Some traditions will place their elevated ancestors over in the Boveda section. Others will keep their elevated ancestors on the ancestral altar in order to assist the non-elevated ancestors in their journey through elevation, right? And so your ancestral altar is more so, at least in my tradition, it's more of a place of work. You go there to work hard in breaking karmic ties, breaking ancestral traumas, learning of your ancestral strengths, identifying ancestral needs and deficits, etc., in order to help your ancestors to elevate and pull them up and lift them up, right? And you can do that through the work that you're doing at that altar space and or with the help of the already ascended, already elevated ancestors in that space, right? That's just one of 100 infinite million gazillion different ways of doing things. So again, it just depends on your tradition. It depends on which form of Espiritismo you work with. It depends on who your godparent is, who your madrina padrino is in this particular path, how they're teaching you. But for me, that's how it was taught. That's how I do my thing. And yeah, if you guys want to share, your distinctions and how you work with your Boveda and or ancestor altar, whether you keep them separate, whether you mix them together or what, I would love to hear about it in the comments. Just, drop me a little message and yeah, let's have a dialogue, because this is always a fun little subject to talk about. There's so many differences and it never has to get hostile, because again, it's all about altars, right? It's all about how you want to organize your spiritual spaces, right? And let's be real, some people do not have the space to have 25 different altars all set up, right? And sometimes you have no choice but to put everything all on one altar, right? And so it begs the question, how do you organize the energies? How do you identify the energies? How do you discern the energies, right? And all of that are very, very important questions to ask. It's less about, what's the right way and what's the wrong way, and more about how do you organize these energies, right? So yeah, I would love, love, love to hear your take on this. Drop me a comment, all right? This is how we grow.